Hi guys, Olive here today to bring you the next installment in my ongoing series of videos all about the 90s PBS Kids TV show Wishbone. Wishbone was an educational television program for children that took on famous works of literature. They extracted the major themes or messages from the novel they took on in each episode and highlighted those messages in the modern, aka 90s storyline. That storyline always ran parallel to an actual adaptation of that novel within the episode. Wishbone, the Jack Russell Terrier, is our guide through these episodes, and he is the only character to have roles in both the real life and the book storylines. In these videos I do here on this channel, I look at one episode of Wishbone and I compare it against the book that they took on for that episode. I look at what they included from the book versus what they might have left out. I talk about what moral messages, if any, they chose to highlight from the work itself, and finally, I judge whether or not it was a successful episode. In today's video, I'll be looking at a late season 1 episode that takes on Robert Louis Stevenson's iconic pirate tale Treasure Island in an episode entitled Salty Dog, Yo Ho Ho and a Bottle of Rum, for those of us over 21. What's the story, Wishbone?
What's the story, Wishbone? What's this you're dreaming of?
This episode starts off when the whole motley crew, Wishbone's owner Joe, his mother Ellen, Joe's friends Samantha and David, and their eccentric neighbor Wanda are riding their bikes to an old beaten-up barn. Wanda explains that it used to belong to a novelist named Trumbull. Trumbull used to have a horse named Blackbeard, and rumor has it that Blackbeard's horseshoe, an item that will give its possessor unlimited courage, is nailed somewhere inside this barn. Samantha is determined to go inside and get that horseshoe, but she's reminded that the barn is condemned and it's about to be torn down. Wanda just wanted everyone to see it before it was gone. That lure of treasure cues Wishbone to introduce the novel and its main character, Jim Hawkins, a teenage worker at a coastal inn who Wishbone happens to be playing. I swear that dog nearly always gets the lead. One day, a pirate comes in with a sea chest in tow and offers a monthly payment for Hawkins to keep a lookout for a seafaring man with one leg. This new pirate resident, Billy Bones, is a decent enough house guest, though he is drunk most of the time. But then after some time has passed, a blind man wanders into the inn asking after Billy. When he finally finds him, he slips him a piece of paper that has a big black dot on it. Billy dies soon after he sees this black dot, but not before advising Hawkins, aka Wishbone, that there is a map in the sea chest he brought with him. Wishbone retrieves it before anyone can notice. When Hawkins shows this map to two men named Livesey and Trelawney, they determine that it must have previously belonged to none other than the fearsome Captain Flint, and that it shows the location of a vast amount of treasure. They decide to set sail immediately to go find it. Back in the real-life storyline, it is a dark night, and a storm is brewing as the kids come back to the barn without adult supervision this time. Sam still wants that legendary horseshoe, so she's going in. The boys try to persuade her not to, but she doesn't listen. She even convinces them to join her. As Sam is searching, Joe and David want to leave the barn since the weather outside is getting really bad. But right as they're about to leave, a strong wind slams the door shut, trapping them inside. Wishbone finds a hole leading to the outside that he can fit through, and Lassie style, he goes to get help, bringing a map of the barn with him. Back in the book section, we are now aboard the Hispaniola, and Hawkins meets the infamous Long John Silver, aka the seafaring man with one leg. Not to mention his talking parrot, named after his previous captain, Captain Flint, and played by an adorable African grey. One day aboard the ship, Hawkins is looking for a snack and falls into a barrel of apples. While he is in there, he accidentally overhears a conversation between Long John Silver and another crew member who are planning a mutiny. They want that treasure map and want to do away with anyone on the ship who might stand in their way. When the ship finally makes landfall on Treasure Island, Hawkins goes out to explore and meets Ben Gunn, a marooned sailor who's been on the island for 3 long years. Not only is he pining after cheese, highly relatable, but he also begs Hawkins for help getting off the island right before Long John Silver and the crew members loyal to him turn on Hawkins and the rest of the honest portion of the crew. Back in the real life story, the kids are still stuck in the barn and their parents back home are freaking out. They are about ready to call the police until Wishbone shows up with the map, thus revealing where they went. Meanwhile, the kids are still trying to find a way out of the barn when it catches on fire. Sam hatches a plan to escape the barn and makes the right choice to abandon the horseshoe, what she originally wanted to come into the barn to get, in order to save her friends. At the end of the episode, the mutinous pirates finally make their way to the location on the map, only to find out that it had already been plundered by none other than Ben Gunn. In exchange for rescuing him, he shares his treasure with the honest members of the crew, including Jim. And in the other storyline, days after the barn incident, Wanda presents Sam with the horseshoe. It had been anonymously donated to the Historical Society after the fire, and Wanda felt she deserved it for her bravery. All's well that ends well. Both Jim and Sam got what they came for in their respective storylines. So before we do anything else, let's ask the question, how faithfully does the show portray the story of the book? The answer? Pretty faithfully. The major characters, the black dots, the apple barrel, Ben Gunn lusting after cheese, the talking skeleton, all the small details and the major story arc are there, more or less. As I've been watching more of these episodes of Wishbone, I found that I really like when they include a lot of the major plot points. This is an educational show after all, and if you're trying to introduce these famous works of literature to the young audience, then you need to show some of the plot. I'm looking at You, the Three Musketeers episode, but by not showing more of Jim's adventures that he has in the book in this episode, I found that they kind of lost the link between the two storylines that they always try to have. They try to have those two storylines feed into one another. So Sam going into the barn to get the horseshoe shows that she has a brave, adventurous spirit, but also that she's kind of oblivious to the dangers that that situation might put her or others in. Just like Jim, not in this episode, but in the book. Treasure Island is very much a coming-of-age tale for Jim. He's at the center of a lot of the drama, but he has to make some really tough choices along the way. I think most of Jim's adventurous exploits from the book aren't included in this episode for two different reasons. Number one, I think they wanted to show a lot of the major plot points and they wouldn't have had time for a lot of the side things that happen. And number two, most of his adventures include violence in some kind of a way, and I don't think that they would feel comfortable putting too much of that into this episode. The real life storyline also wasn't as multifaceted as I'm very much accustomed to them being. There are normally several different things happening in the real life storyline that can apply back to the book somehow, so you can tell that they're connected. Besides some treasure, a map, and a horse named Blackbeard, which isn't even a reference to the book, it's just a pirate reference, it didn't really feel like these two stories were connected, and it didn't really feel like the real life storyline had anything to do with pirates. I was also convinced after finishing the book, but before watching the episode, that one of the moral messages they would transfer over to the real life storyline would be about being honest and not flip-flopping sides. Immediately after Jim comes out of that apple barrel, after having heard that whole conversation about mutiny, he does the right thing and goes and tells his friends. Every chance he gets, he sticks by his friends, unlike Long John Silver, who was only interested in looking out for himself. I think that would be really valuable for kids to see because when you're younger, you're willing to do things that are less than honest to keep yourself in a good position. You're willing to tell a white lie to your parents if it keeps you out of trouble, for instance. I think this would have been a really good moment for this show to teach kids that it's better to do the right thing, that it's a show of character to be honest and to stick to your convictions. It was really nice that Sam got a chance to shine in this episode though. During the whole sequence when she's trying to find a way out of the barn, she stays so composed and she communicates perfectly with the guys about what she needs them to do in order to make her plan work. It's a show of self-sufficiency that Jim also displays in the book, but not in the episode. It is a pretty entertaining episode. The pirates are really top-notch, particularly the actor who plays Billy Bones, the pirate from the beginning of the episode. He is so fun to watch. I can understand why they didn't cut some of his parts that ran a little bit long. They could have included more from the book, but I understood why they wanted to show him because he's just fun to watch. So it was a fun episode, but definitely not the best episode of Wishbone I have seen. So that's it for this installment of What's the Story, Wishbone? If you have any comments or questions about anything you've seen in this video, or about anything in general, please feel free to put it in the comment section down below. But if you'd prefer to find me somewhere other than YouTube, I am on a variety of different places on social media, and the links to all of my profiles will be in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you are having a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.